What if the most irresistible thing about a woman has absolutely nothing to do with how she looks, what she wears, or how much money she makes? What if the secret is something so quiet, so internal, so deeply rooted inside her that most people walk past it every single day without ever noticing it? What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, you are sitting on a version of yourself that is so powerful, so magnetic, so completely transformed that the people who once ignored you will struggle to explain why they cannot stop thinking about you? What if the only thing standing between the woman you are today and the woman the world cannot resist is not a new dress, not a new relationship, not a new city, but 6 habits practiced every single morning, every single evening, in complete silence, with complete intention? Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is not motivation that fades by tomorrow. This is the kind of truth that rewires the way you walk into a room, the way you speak, the way you breathe, and the way the entire world begins to respond to you differently. Do not go anywhere. What if the most irresistible version of you is not waiting somewhere in the future, not hiding behind a better job, a better relationship, or a better body, but is already growing right now inside the habits you choose to practice every single day? There is a kind of woman the world cannot ignore. She walks into a room and something shifts. The air changes. People do not always know why they are drawn to her. They cannot always explain it, but they feel it, deeply, unmistakably. She is not the loudest person in the room. She is not always the most beautiful by conventional standards. She does not beg for attention. She does not perform for anyone. And yet, she is completely, utterly, devastatingly irresistible. This woman did not happen by accident. She was built, habit by habit, choice by choice, silence by silence. Today, we are going to talk about the 6 habits that build exactly this kind of woman. Not a perfect woman, not a flawless woman, but a high-value, deeply mature woman whose inner world is so strong, so cultivated, so intentionally developed, that her outer world has no choice but to reflect that power back to her. Most people go through their entire lives running from the truth about themselves. They dress it up. They distract themselves from it. They blame other people for it. A high-value, mature woman does the opposite. She sits with herself, uncomfortable, raw, unfiltered, and she asks the hardest question any human being can ask. Who am I really when no one is watching? This is not a small question. This is not a question you answer in 5 minutes. This is a question that requires you to strip away every mask you have learned to wear. The mask of confidence you put on for your colleagues, the mask of happiness you put on for your family, the mask of strength you put on so that no one sees you breaking. And underneath all of those masks, what is actually there? A mature woman does not flinch from this answer because she understands something profound. You cannot build a high-value life on a foundation of self-deception. The woman who knows herself, her triggers, her shadows, her real desires, her true values, this woman cannot be manipulated. She cannot be shaken easily. She cannot be convinced to settle for less than she deserves because she is deeply, unshakably clear about what she deserves and why. Radical self-honesty is not cruelty toward yourself. It is the deepest form of respect you can offer yourself. It is saying, I am willing to see the truth no matter how uncomfortable because I trust myself to grow from it. And here is what happens when you practice this consistently. Your energy changes. People around you sense that you are not pretending. There is a realness about you, an authenticity that is extraordinarily rare in a world full of performance and pretense. And rare things are always, always irresistible. We live in a world that rewards reaction. Social media is built on it. Drama is built on it. Conflict is built on it. The louder your reaction, the more attention you receive. But a high-value mature woman has quietly decided to opt out of this system entirely. She has understood something that takes most people decades to learn. Your emotions are not your enemy, but your uncontrolled emotions are your greatest vulnerability. Every time you react impulsively, every time you send the angry message, every time you raise your voice out of frustration, every time you allow someone else's chaos to pull you completely off your center, you hand your power to someone else. You let them write the story, you let them control the temperature of your life. Emotional regulation is not about becoming cold. It is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you are fine when you are not. It is the disciplined, practiced art of creating space, even just a few seconds, even just a few deep breaths, between what you feel and how you respond. A woman who can sit in a difficult conversation and remain calm, not because she does not feel anything, but because she has trained herself not to be ruled by what she feels. This woman is formidable. She is respected. She is trusted. She communicates something without saying a word. I am in control of myself, and therefore I am someone worth taking seriously. And the most beautiful thing about emotional regulation is what it does to your relationships. When people realize that you are not going to explode, not going to collapse, not going to be pushed into panic, they treat you differently, they speak to you more carefully, they respect your space more genuinely, because they know deeply that you have a standard, and that standard begins with how you treat yourself in your most difficult moments. The word boundary has been used so many times, it has almost lost its weight. But let us bring the full weight back to it, because a boundary is not just a rule you tell someone else to follow. It is a living declaration of your self-worth. Every boundary you set says something. Every boundary you fail to hold also says something. When a high-value, mature woman says, "This is not acceptable to me," and then actually, genuinely, without apology and without drama, removes herself from what is not acceptable, she sends a message that goes far deeper than words. She says, I know what I am worth. I know what I will and will not accept. And my comfort, my peace, my dignity are not negotiable. This is extraordinarily attractive, not in a superficial sense, but in the deepest human sense. Because deep down, every person on this earth is drawn to someone who knows themselves well enough to protect themselves. It signals health, it signals strength, it signals that this is a person who will not need to be rescued from their own poor decisions, because they make decisions from a place of clarity, not desperation. The hardest part of holding boundaries is that the people who have benefited most from your lack of them will resist the most when you start to enforce them. They will call you cold, they will call you selfish, they will say, you have changed. And you will look at them calmly and you will understand. This resistance is simply proof that the boundary was necessary. A woman who holds her boundaries does not need to be aggressive. She does not need to be loud. She simply needs to be consistent. And that quiet, steady consistency is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. A high-value, mature woman never stops growing. This is not ambition for the sake of ambition. This is not achievement for the sake of impressing others. This is something much more personal, much more sacred. It is the commitment to becoming more of who you truly are every single day. She reads, she reflects, she seeks out knowledge not because someone told her to, but because she is genuinely curious about the depth of human experience and her own place within it. She develops skills not just professionally but personally, emotional intelligence, communication, the ability to sit in silence without discomfort, the ability to be alone without feeling lonely. She understands that a stagnant woman is a woman who has chosen comfort over life. And comfort, while pleasant in the short term, is the slow death of everything extraordinary about you. What does this continuous growth produce? It produces a woman who is genuinely interesting. Not interesting because she performs interest, Not interesting because she has rehearsed fascinating things to say, but interesting because she is actually, authentically, continuously evolving. Her mind is alive. Her curiosity is real. Her perspective is rich and layered and full of depth that cannot be faked. And people feel this. They are drawn into conversation with her and leave feeling like they have learned something, seen something, experienced something they cannot quite name. That quality, that living, breathing intellectual and emotional depth is one of the rarest and most magnetic qualities a human being can possess. In a world defined by noise, anxiety, and constant disturbance, a woman who carries genuine inner peace is almost supernatural in her effect on others. People gravitate toward her the way people gravitate toward calm water after a storm. She is not performing peace. She is not pretending that life has no difficulties. She simply has developed, through practice, through discipline, through the painful and beautiful work of self-examination, a stillness inside herself that external circumstances cannot easily destroy. This inner peace is built in small moments. It is built in the morning, when she chooses silence over her phone. It is built in meditation, in prayer, in journaling, in long walks without destination. It is built every time she chooses not to engage with something that drains her energy. It is built every time she forgives, not for the other person's sake, but for her own. Inner peace is the opposite of indifference. A peaceful woman feels deeply, she loves deeply, she cares deeply, but she has learned that she does not need to carry the weight of every storm that passes through her life. She can acknowledge the storm, feel it, move through it, and return to her center. This quality changes the way you age, the way you speak, the way you hold your body. There is a lightness to a peaceful woman that has nothing to do with pretending life is easy. It is the lightness of someone who has made peace with the full complexity of her existence and chosen consciously and deliberately to live from a place of groundedness rather than fear. A high-value, mature woman does not drift through her days. She does not simply respond to whatever life throws at her, moving from one distraction to the next, from one external demand to the next. She has sat with herself in those honest, quiet, courageous moments, and she has asked, what do I actually want? What truly matters to me? What kind of life am I trying to build and why? And from those answers, she builds her days, not perfectly, not without difficulty, but intentionally. She knows where she is going, even when the road is unclear. She knows what she values, even when the world tries to tell her to value something else. She knows who she is becoming, even in the moments when she is still figuring out who she is. This intentionality shows in everything. It shows in how she spends her time, in who she surrounds herself with, in the conversations she chooses to have, and the ones she chooses to walk away from. It shows in her goals, in her daily routines, in the way she treats small moments as if they matter, because they do. Every small moment is a brick. And a woman who lays every brick with intention builds something remarkable. People are irresistibly drawn to someone who knows where they are going. Not because direction is attractive in itself, but because it signals something deeper. It signals that this person has done the hard work of self-knowledge, that this person is not lost, that this person will not need you to give her a purpose because she has found one for herself, and that kind of complete, self-sourced purpose is one of the most profoundly attractive qualities in any human being. So let us bring this all together, because these 6 habits are not 6 separate things. They are one living, breathing system of becoming. When you practice radical self-honesty, you know who you are. When you master your emotions, you protect who you are. When you hold your boundaries, you communicate who you are. When you commit to self-development, you expand who you are. When you cultivate inner peace, you sustain who you are. And when you live with intention and purpose, you express who you are, fully, completely, unapologetically. This is the high-value, mature woman. She is not a fantasy. She is not a rare gift given to a lucky few. She is a choice, a daily, difficult, deeply rewarding choice. She is built in the quiet moments no one sees. She is forged in the honest conversations you have with yourself at midnight. She is shaped in the habits you keep even when no one is watching, even when you are tired, even when you feel like nothing is changing. But here is the truth. Everything is always changing. Every day you practice these habits, something shifts inside you, slowly, quietly, powerfully. And one day, not in some distant future, but sooner than you think, you will walk into a room and feel it. That shift, that stillness, that unshakable sense of self, and the world will feel it too. You do not need to become someone else. You need to become more completely, more courageously, more intentionally yourself. That woman is already inside you. She is waiting. Not patiently, urgently. Go build her. Inner peace is the opposite of indifference. A peaceful woman feels deeply. She loves deeply. She cares deeply. But she has learned that she does not need to carry the weight of every storm that passes through her life. She can acknowledge the storm, feel it, move through it, and return to her center. This quality changes the way you age, the way you speak, the way you hold your body. There is a lightness to a peaceful woman that has nothing to do with pretending life is easy. It is the lightness of someone who has made peace with the full complexity of her existence and chosen, consciously and deliberately, to live from a place of groundedness rather than fear. She understands that a stagnant woman is a woman who has chosen comfort over life, and comfort, while pleasant in the short term, is the slow death of everything extraordinary about you. What does this continuous growth produce? It produces a woman who is genuinely interesting. Not interesting because she performs interest, not interesting because she has rehearsed fascinating things to say, but interesting because she is actually, authentically, continuously evolving. Her mind is alive. Her curiosity is real. Her perspective is rich and layered and full of depth that cannot be faked. And people feel this. They are drawn into conversation with her and leave feeling like they have learned something, seen something, experienced something they cannot quite name. That quality, that living, breathing, intellectual and emotional depth is one of the rarest and most magnetic qualities a human being can possess. In a world defined by noise, anxiety, and constant disturbance, a woman who carries genuine inner peace is almost supernatural in her effect on others. People gravitate toward her the way people gravitate toward calm water after a storm. She is not performing peace. She is not pretending that life has no difficulties. She simply has developed, through practice, through discipline, through the painful and beautiful work of self-examination, a stillness inside herself that external circumstances cannot easily destroy. This inner peace is built in small moments. It is built in the morning when she chooses silence over her phone. It is built in meditation, in prayer, in journaling, in long walks without destination. It is built every time she chooses not to engage with something that drains her energy. It is built every time she forgives, not for the other person's sake, but for her own.